As we already know, AI is used in almost every aspect of our lives. We embed AI into our browsers and email inboxes, and we use it as a virtual assistant for our everyday needs. But an increased reliance on AI also leads to the oversharing of personal data. As we become comfortable with AI technologies, we can unknowingly expose our personal and sensitive information to AI that might be used for purposes that we never intended. But before we dive in, let's differentiate between personal and sensitive information. Personal information is used to identify an individual, like your last name or your email address. Sensitive information is a type of personal information that's more highly protected by law, like your political affiliation or criminal history. And depending on the AI technology, both types of information can be at risk of exposure. When we think of privacy risks associated with AI, we want to ask the following questions. What is the extent of data collected? How is the data used? And who has access to the data? Let's take TikTok for example. If you've ever found yourself spending hours scrolling on TikTok, you might have wondered what makes the app so addictive. The answer lies in the highly sophisticated machine learning algorithm and AI-powered recommendation engine that TikTok uses to create the personalized For You feed. TikTok's AI carefully tracks the user's behavior and maps out the user's personality, highlighting emotions and interests and hobbies. Using this data, the recommendation algorithm adapts to changes in the user's behavior in real time. However, the more sophisticated the AI model, the more fine print it brings in relation to privacy. In TikTok's privacy policy, for example, it states that the company collects information you provide in the context of composing, sending, or receiving messages. This means that TikTok doesn't just collect data and messages that you share using the app, but also the content you create and wrote but didn't share. And if you are one of the few without a TikTok account, it might have still collected data from you. Let's say somebody texts you a TikTok link because you don't have a profile on the app. When you open this link, anonymized data like your device type, IP address, what content you consume, and the last app you used before clicking the link are all collected. And even though this information is anonymous, a lot can be inferred from it. So the next time you open a TikTok link, the AI recommendation algorithm would suggest content based on your previous watch history. The more content you consume, the easier it becomes to determine your age range, gender, interests, even without a profile. The highly addictive TikTok algorithm is a testament to the progress we've made in AI development, but it also raises some important questions about user privacy. AI privacy is all about protecting the user's personal data when AI technologies come into play. We must have measures that regulate AI technologies to ensure that personal and sensitive data is used in a responsible manner. In the past few years, there have been some laws that are meant to protect us in the age of AI. In the European Union, the GDPR was passed in 2016. This gives users more control over how companies collect and use their data. Similarly, there's a law in California called the CCPA, which gives California residents control over their personal information and holds companies responsible for protecting it. In the EU, there's also another law called the Right to be Forgotten. This allows people to ask for their personal information to be removed from the internet. So if there's a post that you no longer wish to have up, you have the right to hide or delete it. But even with these regulations, there are many legal loopholes that can put users' privacy at risk. Like TikTok, you might also be familiar with ChatGPT or Microsoft Bing. These AI chatbots fall under the umbrella of generative AI. Generative AI is a type of deep learning model, and it's trained on extremely large sets of data. Generative AI is fed data like text, images, audio, video, and code. Using that data, the AI chatbot can produce unlimited original content that seems human-like. But where does all this data come from? And are the privacy risks of using generative AI like ChatGPT any different than the ones associated with online AI algorithms? A majority of data used by generative AI is scraped from the internet without knowledge or consent of the third-party sites from which it was taken. ChatGPT can scrape data from public profiles, personal websites, and any public records. It can even use articles that are removed from the search engine results under the EU's Right to be Forgotten law. And even though most of this information is public, generative AI makes it a lot easier to manipulate and distribute the public data out of context. So even if you haven't used generative AI, it might still have used you to learn and train itself. A real privacy risk also lies in the information that is collected from conversations with generative AI chatbots. AI chatbots invite you to feed it large amounts of data, much larger and often much more personal than what you provide a search engine or a social media algorithm. Let's say you're an intern at a company and you want ChatGPT to proofread your meeting notes. In the process of proofreading these notes, ChatGPT has also ingested and stored the sensitive company information that you provided. It can now use the confidential data directly or indirectly in any future context. So, as you can imagine, generative AI is a slippery slope when it comes to privacy. So, the next time you use ChatGPT, remember that it can be much harder to keep track of the type of information that you unintentionally give away to a chatbot than what you feed a search engine. But what can be done to protect our privacy when AI technologies are at play? Anonymized data would be one way, since it removes personal identifiers from the data. This would allow researchers or businesses to study public data without knowing who it belongs to or without even being able to trace it back to them. But as we learned from the ChatGPT example, anonymized data isn't always foolproof. An incredibly important step would be for organizations and companies that use AI to prioritize privacy in their systems design and implementation. This means that these companies must be transparent about data collection and usage. And transparency is a pillar of AI ethics that we'll discuss more in our next lesson.